This is the CineSnob Podcast.
Hi there. Welcome to episode 222 of the CineSnob Podcast. My name is Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafana.
Cody, you are in a brand new apartment.
I am, yeah. After after podcasting out of my kitchen for the last couple of years, I'm glad to be in my office / podcast room now.
So, is that a pocket door behind you?
Is that
that being the one that slides into the wall?
It is, yeah.
Fancy.
Yeah, that's a closet. So, yeah, it's nice. I've I work from home and have worked from home for the past 6 years. So, I finally reached a point where I needed a separate room to work out of because it was just impossible for me.
Now, when you moved, was it how long did it take you? Was it a pretty big ordeal, or?
Well, yeah, it was, but I had a moving mishap that happened to me. So I went through an apartment locator and got some free movers and stuff. So I booked my move 6 weeks ago, and then on the week before the move, nobody had contacted me from the moving company. I'm like, what the fuck is going? Shouldn't you be confirming the time and all of this? So I started calling them, and nobody was answering. Nobody was returning calls. So on the day of the move, I called the apartment locator. I'm like, so has anyone that you've referred to this place been having problems, like any clients that you've had? And they're like, oh, yeah, they went under. And I'm like, excuse me? So the moving company that I hired went out of business, did not think to tell me this. And on the day of my move, I had no movers. So that was fun.
I've moved 3 times, I think. I've never ever used movers. It's always been me. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm that kind of guy though. I'm not going to pay for something that I feel like I can do myself and destroy my back doing it.
So that includes furniture and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's been my dad and my brother helping.
Yeah.
That's always what it's been, but I've never hired professional movers.
Well, I didn't pay for it, so I'm.
So what happened? Did they send a backup crew or something?
Yeah, the apartment locator had a second crew that they had been using recently, and they were able to fit me in the next morning. So my move got delayed by a day, but it was an ordeal. I just I did not realize how much shit I own until I'm like, Jesus Christ, how many more boxes are there? And stuff just kept coming. So.
Did you have to go to any additional storage, or is your place big enough for everything?
I have a storage place that I didn't even go near this time around. So I've got a full storage place plus all this stuff here.
Oh, good.
I need to do a good purging, but I have not yet been able to do so.
So you've had stuff in storage before you even moved?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's a good time. That you're just paying for someone to hold your crap. It's good. Life is good like that. We've got one too, but
yeah.
So in the meantime, though, you did have a chance to head to Fantastic Fest.
Yeah.
Which I believe was it all virtual last year, or did it not happen last year? I don't remember.
I believe that it did not happen last year. Actually, it was virtual last year. Excuse me. I did not do the virtual version. It was only virtual last year.
Okay, so but this came back, Fantastic Fest. I haven't been in a few years, but it's back as sort of a hybrid. Is it a hybrid virtual in person, or was it all in person? I forget.
So basically, the way that it worked for the attendees there was that it was about 6 days or 7 days of all in person, and then from the last day of the festival until October 11th, it's an at-home version. So. You have the chance to go in person, and then when the in-person festival part ends, some of the movies go to the at-home version.
Now, I saw you were at some sort of event, or what was the movie on this past week? You posted a photo of it with I believe our friend Brian was there too.
Oh.
Was that something?
We were just at a movie. Yeah, it was just at the beginning of our screening day.
Okay.
At
I
Lamar.
didn't know it was a specific event. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Sorry to blow up your
events.
spot there, Cody.
Oh no, it's fine. It was just nothing. So.
Oh well, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I thought it was an event, but maybe I'm just used to seeing events being shared. But anyway, so how'd it go? How was the fest this year?
It was good. It was, was a little bit different than what you normally expect. The people at Fantastic Fest, much to the, I think, frustration of some of the attendees there, took measures to make it as safe as possible. There were buffer seats everywhere, so you couldn't sit next to anyone unless you purchased tickets with them. The press was all buffered, so it was just one press member every other seat, which was, it makes you feel safe during a pandemic to. I understand there were maybe some difficulties ticketing wise, but it really made me feel as comfortable as possible in that situation. And masks were required while watching the movie and stuff. But I think I had a mixed experience with the films this time around. There's still a lot I want to get into that we'll cover next week at the at-home version, but we can definitely talk about a few of the films that we saw.
So what's the best film you saw at the festival? So far.
I think it's somewhere in between. Like, nothing really blew me away so far, but I think there were two movies that I think there was a lot of good in. One was a movie called Hellbender, which was a movie. If you recall, a little while back last year, we covered a film called The Deeper You Dig. It was a real low budget Shudder movie made by like this family. It was like a husband, wife, and daughter, and they were like the only three people in it. And it was like you could tell that it was super low budget, but it had like these really cool, like beautiful shots in like snowy upstate New York, and it had some like real creepy vibes to it. And Hellbender is their new movie, really focused on the mother-daughter relationship. Again, Toby Poser and Zelda Adams, the mother and daughter here, and it's cool because it's like that family affair thing where like the daughter had a screenwriting credit on it. She was the drone operator for the camera, and the dad is doing the directing and editing and sound design, and it's really cool to see this family just kind of every year shuffle off and make a movie in their isolated home and then put it out. It's rough around the edges, but this was covering this mother-daughter relationship, and I think it gets by on being really interesting in terms of the vibes. There's some pretty good humor in there as well. I don't think it was as good as The Deeper You Dig, but I think that there is some really enjoyable stuff in there.
I don't remember The Deeper You Dig. I don't know if I saw that one.
You definitely did, because I think I think all three of us saw it, you, me, and Jocelyn, and we were all like pretty impressed with this super low budget movie. There was a lot of drone stuff. It was like there was some really dark shit, like like the teenage girl like getting buried and stuff. If you remember that, it had to do with like a house that was a little bit haunted, I believe too.
I believe you. I just don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember at all. Yeah, I mean, we covered it last June, so
yeah.
I just don't remember. I don't remember it at all.
No, that's cool. And then I think the other movie that I liked that I'm still kind of stewing on a little bit was the secret screening. So the secret screening one I did not make it to, which was last night in Soho, which I was very disappointed that I wasn't able to make it to that. But the second secret screening was a movie called Benedetta, which is a Paul Verhoeven movie.
Yes.
So as you can probably expect, horny as hell. But it's a movie about like a forbidden love between like a nun and then someone who kind of comes into the nunnery and so it's like a lesbian love film.
It says it's based on a book called Immodest Acts: The Life of a Lesbian Nun in Renaissance Italy. It's a pretty matter-of-fact, straightforward subtitle there.
Yeah, it really is, and that tells you what you need to know. And I think that there were some really great performances. It's weird because being in Fantastic Fest, when the movies end, people kind of gather around and talk about it. And I heard a lot of people in the social groups that I was just kind of hanging around that people thought it was really boring, and they were like, it put me to sleep. It's a lot. This movie's a lot of things, and boring is not one of them. But I think the problem with the movie is that, it sort of, it doesn't ever commit to either being like this true love story or this like religious kind of, like this religious, I don't want to say like criticism, but like kind of harsh on religion. And it doesn't put its foot too firmly into either of those camps, and so I think it has this weird like limbo that it's in a lot of the movie. But the performances are really great. Like, it's got a really great score. It looks really pretty, and there's some very blasphemous things that happen. There are certain things used as sex objects that are perhaps carvings of the Virgin Mary. But spoiler alert. I thought that it was enjoyable and that it had some good stuff in it. And then, I saw a lot of stuff that was middling, and then there was a couple of things that kind of stirred a little controversy. But
yeah, I believe you told me about that one. I don't know if we want to go into that one. It's a little complicated.
It's a little complicated. Safe to say that there's a lot of buzz going around a movie called The Sadness that kind of, I think it premiered at Fantasia Fest, and as being like a really deranged and violent and crazy movie. And for me, it was very edgelordian, kind of,
kind of like the vibe that I would feel like that was the vibe of Fantastic Fest like 6 years ago.
I think that's fair.
That would have been like wholly embraced.
Yeah, I think so too. Before there's been, some reckoning going on, but like, to me, it reminded me of like, have you ever seen Train to Busan? The zombie.
I have not. No.
Yeah, it's like Train to Busan, but with none of the nuance. Because Train to Busan is like is like a zombie movie that takes place on a train that has this like family story at the core to it. And this is sort of like a virus type of movie with zombie type characters that just has no nuance to it. It's going for like that super shock gore kind of thing. And for me, I saw right through it. It was very, very, not my jam, but, I still think the fest is really enjoyable again. I think out of the movies I saw, like half of them were foreign language films too, if not more than half. There was also an interesting thing too, a movie that I wanted to touch on real quick that I wish was better, but like, so you're aware of Phil Tippett, right?
Let me look him up. I'm not sure if I know who Phil Tippett is.
Yeah, I think you would know if you like read his career.
Okay, he's got like a bunch of stop motion stuff.
Yeah. And he also he worked on like Jurassic Park and stuff. Like, he was a dinosaur supervisor on Jurassic Park, and he worked on a bunch of stop motion stuff, and
so he was he's the guy that was going to do the stop motion for Jurassic Park, and then they decided to move to CGI. Anyway.
Yeah, and that it's actually interesting because they had a little documentary before this where it talks like, he was a stop motion animator, and then Jurassic Park was going to be CGI, and so they sort of like pivoted into CGI after that, his company. And but anyway, there's his movie called Mad God came out, and it's like 20 years in the making of this like stop motion passion project, and like just stunning stop. I find stop motion really interesting and like cool to watch. And it has like amazing stop motion where you can see like the progression of the technology over the years and stuff. But it is like a dialogue-less, meandering kind of thing. I saw someone on a Facebook group compared it to a Tool video, which I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that seems like a very apt comparison for like weird, amazing stop motion.
Yeah, and so I think that I saw a couple of people, not to steal other people's ideas, but people talking about it as like a demo reel or a sizzle reel for stop motion, and I think that again that's accurate. The story wasn't quite there, but man, seeing that on seeing stop motion on the big screen, I think it's something that's pretty rare that we don't really see much of these days. The last time I can remember is like Fantastic Mr. Fox, maybe.
Yeah, I mean the Aardman stuff and is it Leica that did Coraline?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Though it's funny. I mean, that's a medium that's evolved so much that it's almost like it's this weird hybrid now. Because there's so many digital effects in that, being the removal of armatures and stuff.
Yeah,
that it's a weird mix of like. Kind of like when they, I've talked about this before, but when they take the rods, like they digitally remove the rods from the Muppets. I know, no, I mean, it's seriously, it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, why is this?
Yeah.
Why it's a weird mixture of technology, but yeah, I mean, Fantastic Mr. Fox is probably the last like one that looks most traditionally like stop motion that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can kind of see the fluctuations in the fur and.
Which I like the more traditional looking stop motion stuff. The slicker stuff is still cool, but like I appreciate that old style. So anyway, I think it was fun. It's a fun experience. The festival, remains extremely well run as well. It was different. Usually it's an all day thing. This time the screenings during the week were starting at like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. So the schedule was a little bit more condensed. There was only like 3 movies a day. But all that being said, had a good time in Austin, and I'm looking forward to cracking into the at-home version, which we'll be covering. There's a documentary on Gwar that I'm really looking forward to watching this week. So,
is it Odorous Urungus was the guy that died, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they try to like do a Viking funeral for him, or is that something I'm misremembering?
I think so. I think that sounds, but I think they just like lit his costume on fire, not the actual guy.
Yeah,
but
you got to do what you got to do, I guess.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to This Is Gwar, which is the documentary. So,
have you seen Gwar live?
Like 6 or 7 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you ever been ejaculated on by the giant penis?
You betcha, man.
Okay.
Well, actually, it was blood that was ejaculated, but yes.
Well, I mean, yeah. I guess anything can be ejaculated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any liquid? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Anything else?
On that note,
anything else before we move on?
No. We'll cover some more next week.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to reviews.
Here are this week's reviews.
First up, we have Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Lady, we should be out there snacking on bad guys. I am a predator. I need to be free.
You have got to get control of your aggression. We will get hauled off into Area 51. You live in my body. You live by my rules.
I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please let me fix it so I can fix it again. You are a loser.
Eddie Brock, I want to give you my story. People love serial killers.
Please, why me?
What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. I have tasted blood before, and that is not it. All I ever wanted in this world is carnage.
This is, of course, the sequel to, I believe, 2019. Venom. I don't know when the first one came out. Starring Tom Hardy. I fucking hated the first one.
Yep.
It was one of the worst superhero movies I'd ever seen at the time. This is the sequel. A new director, Andy Serkis. Still got Tom Hardy. Still have Woody Harrelson, who was introduced in a post-credits scene in the first movie. Cody, tell us about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and what you thought of it.
Yeah, so I was also not a fan of the first Venom movie, though I remember very, very little about it. I quickly tried to forget about it when I left the theater. But I do remember finding it strange that Tom Hardy was involved, especially because Tom Hardy had become this kind of like prestige actor who was known for like high quality stuff, and I was wondering what he was doing slumming it in a movie like that. But we had a tease at the end of the first Venom movie that was Woody Harrelson in a very different looking wig at the end of that one, and kind of like hinting that there would be Carnage, a Carnage movie, and so here we are. And so there's less of the setup and the kind of I think in the first movie what I remember is like the slapsticky nature of him trying to fight with Venom and like his new body and his body being controlled or whatever. I guess it's not body being controlled. I guess it's more of I guess it is at some parts. Who cares? But anyway,
getting lost in the weeds of
this.
Yeah,
don't want to get in the weeds on this.
Not worth the time.
Yeah. But so, we get this time around a story where Woody Harrelson's character kind of is on death row and escapes and kind of threatens Eddie Brock's life, who's I guess like a journalist who's on the rise now because
he's back on top.
He's back on top, and
according
he's quick to say it. Yeah.
It's like literally, it literally says that there's literally a line in the movie that says Eddie Brock is back on top.
So look, man, here's the thing about this is that I am baffled by the tone of this movie because it is like the humor in it is so fucking lame. Like it's just like the script is so corny and cheesy. The jokes are terrible, but like the jokes are often like it's this sort of like Venom and Eddie are like roommates or like an odd couple pairing kind of thing.
Right.
And like Venom is just like really sassy and like
he's like a murderous Alf.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just so corny and like and the jokes are really terribly written and his quips are terrible and there's scenes where he becomes like the king of a party at one point wearing glow sticks and like and I'm asking myself like who is this for, because it tries to do this like really slapsticky, corny, cheesy humor mixed in with like uber violence, right? And so the tonal mix here is just a nightmare and a disaster to try to follow. And I just found myself wondering, like, again, who is this for? Because if it was just based on the humor, like the lighthearted tone of it feels like there's a scene where Venom is like cooking and singing and stuff. Like it's just ridiculous. And it's just excruciating for me. It's just not enjoyable. You said earlier that Venom is one of the worst comic books movies that you had seen up until that point. Look, man, I missed a lot of the 2000 stuff. Like I've never seen any of the earlier Fantastic Four movies, but I can't imagine a comic book movie these days being worse than what this is. To me, it has nothing really redeeming about it. Like I said, the humor sucks and it's really corny. Tom Hardy is too good for this. The dialogue is really terrible. Michelle Williams again is slumming it in something like this. I just found very little redeeming about it. I think that the Venom and Carnage action sequences can be okay at times, to look at, but it's just a really dumb story about like a falling out of a friendship. Ultimately, what it's at its core, and it's just Venom is just such a annoying, obnoxious character with like a sense of humor that's just completely off. I just did not find any of the every joke that it has just lands with a thud to me. So I did not have a good time with this.
So I mentioned that I hated the first movie. This one I still didn't like, but I didn't hate it near as much. I don't know if it was because I was expecting because my expectations had been tamped down. There's a certain kind of gonzo weirdness to this whole thing that I think works in little tiny bits. I think all of the jokes are pretty bad, except here and there's something that's kind of chuckle worthy. And maybe I'm being a little too generous, but there's a scene where a Venom escapes, like he leaves Eddie Brock, and he has to keep like picking up different hosts, and he ends up at what I assume is some sort of gay pride event, right? There's a scene where he takes a microphone. Everyone thinks everyone thinks Venom is this just awesome costume, because it's apparently a costume party also. There's a scene where he takes a microphone and makes like a very honest speech, but that has a lot of like parallels to someone coming out, which is stupid as shit. But damn it, if I didn't like chuckle under my breath a little bit at it.
Oh, well, don't worry. It's not subtly about that, because at some point he says, "I'm coming out." Venom says.
No, I know. I mean, but it's like that classic sort of sitcom misunderstanding style of this guy's talking about something completely different, but he's literally talking to the crowd. Anyway, that said, I don't know what the fuck is happening with Woody Harrelson and Naomi Harris in this movie. They are bonkers, batshit, stupid characters that make no sense in real life. Even in this movie's deranged universe, I don't get what's happening with them. Yeah. Like, I don't understand it. And so, like, Woody Harrelson is this condemned killer who just wanted to be friends with Eddie Brock, apparently, but bit him and became Carnage by sucking his blood, essentially. And Naomi Harris is his like long lost girlfriend, who's also apparently some sort of mutant. Yeah. And they're both just kind of patently just across the board evil. Like, they don't care. Like, there's no redeeming qualities to them. I don't understand what the fuck was happening with that. And then you have Stephen Graham, who I don't remember if he was in the first movie or not.
I don't think that he was.
I like that you have both him and Tom Hardy, like two British dudes, like bouncing off these Goomba Italian accents or
in
whatever.
San Francisco.
It's whatever the fuck is supposed to be happening with Tom Hardy's accent. Anyway, he has a very big part and then has like a weird teaser at the end. I don't know what's happening with that. I don't know if he's a comic book character that I'm not aware of. That's all that said. I think the only thing people are going to take away from this movie is what happens in the mid-credits scene.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, that's the big thing that I think is going to be pulled away from this. And I'm going to spoil it right now. So if you haven't seen the movie, stop listening or watching, whatever you're doing.
Are you going to spoiler zone this?
I'm going to spoiler zone it, but I'm going to do an audible spoiler zone. I'm not going to throw in the audio because I don't have it set up on here.
We paid good money for that clip.
I should probably set it up on here. But mid-credit sequence, you have Venom trying to show Eddie Brock the the knowledge of his alien species, and it's somehow that triggers or it coincides with a dimensional shift, which throws Eddie Brock into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And he sees what's his name? I forget the actor's name. J.K. Simmons. Yes, J. Jonah Jameson revealing Spider-Man's identity, which of course Venom is a Spider-Man villain from the comic book days. Venom himself was actually a costume of Spider-Man's. That's his origin story. He was an alien costume.
And yet another character to keep Peter Parker from having his own movie at this point.
So, yes. So you see Tom Holland. And so presumably, maybe Venom shows up in Spider-Man No Way Home. Which, again, you mentioned...
I mean, I think it's clear right now that they're building a Sinister Six into No Way Home based on having Doc Ock and Green Goblin teased in the teaser.
Yeah. And then Electro supposedly coming back, and again, you've got this Spider-Man movie. They're basically building a live action into the Spider-Verse at this point. But I think it is somewhat interesting that this really dark take is going to be part of that Marvel universe, at least in a small little way. And this is, I believe that these are the only Marvel movies that have used the word fuck, or Marvel adjacent movies. Unless you're going to count Logan or something, Logan and Deadpool, but
yeah, or like there was that Marvel Marvel Dark or whatever where they had like the Punisher Warzone and stuff, which is pretty. But that's
yeah, but I mean that's unrelated. And I believe I believe they cursed in the Netflix shows too, which I don't know what their canon is officially. But anyway, that's really the only thing I think anyone's going to take away from this movie. And for better or worse, it was a stepping stone to get Venom into this crowded ass Spider-Man universe. Yay. So take with that what you will. I don't know, man. I think the best part about this movie, it's fucking short. I mean, it's like an hour and a half, like tops. So, at least it didn't stick around too long. I didn't hate it as much as I hated the first one, but I still did not like it. And I'm not necessarily a big fan of the characterization of Venom and Tom Hardy. I don't know what Tom Hardy's doing. I mean, he's a fucking weirdo in these movies. But at least it was better than whatever the hell Woody Harrelson was doing. Also supposed to be playing like a 40-year-old, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, what's your grade for Let There Be Carnage, Cody?
I'm giving it a D. A D. I'm just gonna go straight
D. Wow.
Yeah, I hated it.
I'm gonna give it a C because I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I didn't like it. But whatever, man. It's in theaters now if you want to watch it. Stick around for the mid-credits scene. Anyway, let's move on to our last movie, The Many Saints of Newark.
What do you want, Richard?
I'll be honest with you.
I want money.
I want to do a good deed.
I want to do a lot more.
The best things in life for free.
I try to set an example for my nephew.
Give them to the birds and bees. I want money.
Anthony got kicked out of school. I went through all that trouble, and for what?
I'm always being accused.
You gotta be good.
That's what I want.
I want to do whatever I can to help the family.
That's what I want. Money don't get everything, it's true. What it don't get, I can't use. I want money.
Wonder what they talk about in that.
I didn't catch the name.
Pussy.
Put him on the table.
I think I just got this jacket. I try so hard.
This is a prequel to one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and probably the I would say the kickoff to prestige television. HBO's The Sopranos ran from 1999 to 2007. This is a prequel movie, so to speak, set roughly 30 years before that to begin with, and then into the 70s. One of my it's something I've been waiting for a while now. I'm a huge Sopranos fan. Watched the original series. I've probably gone through it like 5 times in the last 14 years. Anyway, but this is ostensibly a standalone movie, premiered in theaters and on HBO Max. Cody, you haven't seen The Sopranos, so tell us about The Many Saints of Newark and what you thought of it.
Yeah, well, I'll keep my comments brief and let you take over most of this because I have never seen a single frame of The Sopranos. I think maybe a little bit young when it first hit and just never went back for it. It's been something I've been meaning to do, but just never have. So, going into the movie, I didn't know. I was honestly not planning to watch it because I wanted to see The Sopranos first, and you convinced me to watch it to get the perspective of someone who was going in cold, and does it work as a standalone? And the answer to that question for me is kinda. I think that I think it's apparent pretty early on that there are. I think something more obvious than just Easter eggs here, where the world that it comes into feels lived in, but unless you know what's going on, I think you're going to be a little bit lost. I started to gather, you can put pieces together from just context in here, but it seemed to me like most of the characters here were playing younger versions of characters that were established on the show, with like inside jokes and references and stuff like that. And I for me, the thing that I think it struggles with as a standalone is that I'm not sure that the story at the center that it's telling is all that compelling. I think that it's actually a pretty mundane crime story that's going on, and I think that it sort of tries to be more epic than I think it actually ends up being. I saw a comment that someone made that they tried to put a season's worth of television into 2 hours, and I think that's probably a fair comparison or a fair comment. I think the best part about it is certainly, I think, Alessandro Nivola's performance, who plays Dickie in the movie, who I think is really really good in the part. I think that some actors don't really make it out that well. I thought that Ray Liotta was like extremely over the top, and I think that was kind of the point, maybe. But for me, Ray Liotta seemed a little bit out of place for me.
He plays a weird dual role too.
Yeah.
And one that I'll get into when I talk about it, but one that I'm not sure isn't like a voice, isn't like a what am I trying to say? Like a conscience, like the voice of someone's conscience.
Yeah. I think for me, the thing that I come out of this with is like, is this something where I feel like it would have felt necessary had I seen the show, or something that would have been like an important companion piece, or something that filled out the story or the lore of the show? And for me, again, I don't think any of the going-ons were all that interesting. I think, like I said, the story that it's telling at the center of it, I think, is pretty tame and uninteresting. And I think it's more of a character play than anything else, like a character study. And I think as a character study of Dickie, it's pretty interesting. But I think that nobody else really gets a lot to do here. And I think that, I think maybe it suffers from having the ensemble get a little bit of a moment there to provide context to their characters in the show. That's what I got from it. But for me, I was not all that enthralled with the story at heart. And so as a standalone crime movie, it seemed like a bit of a very mundane crime movie.
Yeah, the thing about it is, it doesn't really. There's exactly one revelation in the movie if you've seen the show. Like, there's one blank filled in that you didn't know about if you've seen The Sopranos. I'm not going to say what it is, but there's one thing that happens in the film that when you're watching it, you say, oh, okay, well, then that adds this nuance to a character that's in the film that has a role in the future. The problem is, and look, there's a time, there are these movies like this where the movie's not great. There may be good performances or whatever, but it's just about being back in that world. And I think this is one of those situations. Like, this is absolutely inessential for, like, this story of what happens to Dickie Moltisanti is conveyed in one of the episodes of the series already. There's an episode that describes what happened to him. So as soon as the word, for example, as soon as the word TV trays is brought up, you're like, okay, Dickie's going to die, because that's what he was carrying into the house when he was killed. That's not a spoiler. That's from an episode that aired in fucking 2002. Mm-hmm. So the problem with it is that as a fan, there's nothing really revelatory about it. You know, I kind of went into this thinking this was going to be about the relationship between the character of Dickie Moltisanti and Tony Soprano, who in this film is played by James Gandolfini's son, Michael Gandolfini, who I think does a good job. It's a huge shadow to live in, huge shoes to fill. I mean, Gandolfini died like 7 years ago or so, and I mean, it was just a powerhouse performance in The Sopranos. I was hoping it would be more about that, like kind of the influence. Here, I don't know that you really get a sense of their relationship other than what the movie tells you. And, you know, to kind of, you know, to replay like the story we know of Dickie's, how Dickie dies. Like, I'm disappointed that it wasn't more, you know. There's some, like I said, there's a few moments of like revelation in there. You know, the Sopranos is a very like oddly spiritual show. And a lot about like the meaning of dreams and visions and things like that. So, you know, I do think there is some of that at play. I think it doesn't tip its hand enough toward it. Like, I think that one of the roles Ray Liotta plays, I see as, I don't think is a real person, mm-hmm. or at least is not that version of the real person. I don't know. Then there's something that happens at the end that I'm not really terribly sure what's going on. I think Leslie Odom Jr. I think he's got a few great scenes. I think his story doesn't get enough of the screen time. I don't know, man. I'm more than happy to go back into the world of The Sopranos. I'm not as so thrilled that it was just kind of a rehashing of a story we've already heard, with a couple of like little tiny bits of new information, and then a bunch of guys doing impressions of, you know, Steve Van Zandt and other people in the movie. You know, I don't think it's bad. I do think it's a slightly disappointing version of what I thought it was going to be. And again, I think this would have done better as some sort of series. You know, this is some sort of like what you mentioned. You know, a season's worth of TV crammed into 2 hours, and that was the thing about The Sopranos, was it was a slow burn, and it wasn't always like serialized. That's another thing too. Like, sometimes you'd pick up an episode like 2 months later. The next episode would be, and it didn't necessarily relate to what happened before, except for minor storylines. It wasn't like you picked up right where something left off. You know, I don't dislike it, and I had a good time with it, and I did start watching it again. I saw it in a press screening at a theater because I was very eager to see it. And I've started watching it again at home, and I think it plays a little better on TV than it did in a theater. You know, that said, though, I wish it were a little more of a standalone. I don't mind the Easter eggs. I don't mind that you have younger guys playing, or different guys playing the younger characters, but I wish it were just not a story that we'd seen before. Like, for example, the scene where Tony sees his dad get arrested at the carnival. Mm-hmm. That literally is a reshot scene from one of the first season episodes. Like, they shot a flashback, like they reshot this flashback scene. I mean, it's like, why are we revisiting this stuff? We know it. But, and that's another thing. John Barenthal has almost nothing to do
Yep.
And Vera Farmiga is good, but she has almost nothing to do either. I just wish that was a little more fleshed out in like a story of Dickie and Tony as opposed to Dickie and whoever.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying, is that the character focus is like a revolving door where no real character aside from Dickie gets any sort of depth to them. Like, again, like you said, Vera Farmiga has, is really good in it, but to me, that was just maybe providing more context to that character in the show. And like, I think you're like, or I don't know. It's
well, it would lead to, in my mind, it would lead to the Tonys gravitating toward Dickie, because in the show, his mother is kind of a sociopath as well, who is a thorn in all of her kids' side. I mean, she's a terrible. The character is terrible. So it would mean, to me, it would mean her like pushing Tony more and more toward Dickie. And that's really what I thought the movie was going to be. I thought it was going to be Tony and Dickie. Like, how did Dickie influence Tony? Because the movie's narrated by Dickie's son Christopher, who's a huge character in The Sopranos. Anyway, it's I think it's just too scattershot. I think it tries to do too much. Anyway, what's your grade for Many Saints of Newark, Cody?
I'm gonna have to give it a C+. I think that it's just short of being enjoyable, but I was finding myself wondering why I should care about any of it as a standalone.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B-. I mean, I think it's a decent enough movie. I think obviously it helps massively to know The Sopranos, but even then, I think it's a little bit disappointing, just because it's a little too unfocused. And it feels like just sort of a greatest hits of, here's the character you loved, now it's a younger dude. Now it's Billy Magnuson playing this guy. But it is available now on HBO Max. I'm curious. I set up HBO Max so my dad could watch this because he's a huge Sopranos fan too, but I haven't had a chance to ask him if he's watched it yet. So I'm curious what he's thought. He loves the sociopathic stuff Tony does, just because it's funny. It's played for laughs.
Yeah.
Not that he's a sociopath, but anyway, that's going to do it for this week. Next week, Cody, finally, James Bond, No Time to Die. Mm-hmm. All 2 hours and 43 minutes of it. Oh.
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I'm not a big Bond fan at all. But powering through it, but we get through that so that we can get to a movie that I saw at Sundance back in January that, spoiler alert, remains still, and I need to watch it again, but in my memory, the best thing I've seen all year, which is a movie called Mass, that we will be covering, and then we'll probably find a third. I know that there's some stuff that I think Lamb might be coming out, and maybe we'll cover Lamb.
Oh boy,
we'll see.
Yeah, the No Time to Die. Speaking of Bond, like I think I haven't seen any of the Sean Connery ones or Roger Moore or even Timothy Dalton. I did quite like Skyfall with Daniel Craig, but I don't think I really liked anything else. I liked GoldenEye back in the old days, but
you didn't like Casino Royale?
I thought it was all right. I didn't like the shoehorning in of Texas Hold'em. That seemed very not European. Because it was huge at the time. What was that, 2005 Casino Royale came out?
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, that's, yeah. So if you want to reach us, you can email us at podcast@cinesnob.net. You can find us on Twitter at CineSnob, Facebook, CineSnob Critic, YouTube.com/CineSnob. Cody, how's the Ramble doing? Are y'all back on any kind of schedule? Or are you taking some time off? Or
no, we've got a little time off letting our boy Jerry get healthy. So TBD on that. But hopefully, maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll get back to it.
Cool. Oh yeah, you can see me. I'll be at Big Texas Comic Con next week, hosting some panels for the first time in a couple of years.
Nice.
Doing the Cobra Kai panel again. Good times there. And I think I'm doing Doug Jones.
Okay, yeah.
Big, tall, skinny actor who's been in probably every monster movie you've seen the last 30 years, but
Pan's Labyrinth, Shape of Water, a big Del Toro collaborator.
Yeah, he's in that Star Trek show, Discovery. I think he actually has a speaking part in that movie, so our TV show should be fun. I couldn't get the Giancarlo Esposito panel, but maybe someone will back out and I'll take that one. So anyway, that's next weekend at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center.
Cool.
A place that has been like totally torn down and rebuilt, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it's weird.
It's nice in there.
Yeah. Anything else before we go, Cody?
No, I think we're good.
All right. On that note, I am Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafana.
Thank you for listening to the CineSnob Podcast. To read reviews, interviews, and more, visit CineSnob.net. See you next week.